Joining us on the line is Candace Owens. She is a writer, producer, and conservative commentator, best-selling author, and, of course, the host of the brand new show here on Daily Wire, premieres this Friday. Candace Owens, thanks so much for joining the show. Great to talk to you.
Excited to be back on.
So I'm going to talk to you about the brand new show on Friday, what we can expect a little bit later. But first, I have to ask you about the, I would say, cultural milestone that was the Grammys last night. It was just an incredible display of Shakespearean brilliance. I'm glad to be living at a time when If I Ran the Zoo is too much for kids, but simulated lesbian sex acts on stage is not only perfectly appropriate for children, but apparently the height of our culture.
I know, and thank goodness our children can no longer read the deplorable Dr. Seuss, but we are totally allowed to see these lesbian simulations. I'm happy to say that I did not watch a single second of the Grammys, but I did watch, obviously, the news clips, and I saw exactly what you're talking about. And it's funny, and it's also despicable and disgusting, and everything that is rotten about American culture, the things that we hold up and the things that we cancel.
I mean, it is incredible how feminist it was. I mean, all I could think of is how empowering it must be for women all over America to watch this happen on stage, because obviously men would not want to watch that, right? It was just for women. I mean, no men would ever want to watch something like that.
I personally felt so empowered when I watched the clip of it this morning. I said, wow, finally I'm free, because that's what I actually want to do. What I want to do is go out there and be half naked and to simulate lesbian sex. And I felt, so held down by the patriarchy prior to last night. But now I'm going to go ahead and do that later on today.
Yeah, it's definitely freedom. It does feel as though our culture is not just in a state of collapse. It is in a state of active destruction of everything that is valuable. I've been saying that we don't have a culture and a counterculture the way we used to, where there was sort of this dominant traditional culture, and there was a counterculture that challenged some of those things but created its own culture. Now we just have an anti-culture, and that anti-culture is just dreck designed to tear down things. And that seems like what the Grammys have basically become. It's just a bunch of garbage designed to tear down traditional structures and institutions at any cost, and then you're rewarded for doing that, apparently.
Yeah, to me personally, I think for a lot of Americans, it sort of feels like we're actually under attack. Like it doesn't seem real. You know what I mean? And I know that I don't believe that the average American thinks that that is good, right? And yet we see that it's being promulgated in the culture. We see that it's being perpetuated. We see that people are being held up as idols when they do these sorts of things. So it makes you wonder who's promoting it, right? Who is behind this push to tear down American culture, to tear down American values, and to fundamentally weaken America at the same time, right? Because that's what you're doing, right? You're destroying values, and in the process, it always seems to me to be an attack on the family, what it means to be a family. Promoting whether it's the trans agenda, whether it's the lesbian agenda, whatever it is, it always seems to be this attack on tradition, cultural values, making men strong, making women strong, and keeping families together.
So I also wanted to ask you about the most victimized person in American and British society these days. That, of course, would be Meghan Markle, who is the most victimized princess in the history. I mean, thoughts and prayers to Meghan Markle, the most victimized person in the history of humanity. I have to say, by law, apparently, that I believe her when she makes any accusation of any sort. Because if I don't say that I believe her, then I lose my job, like Sharon Osbourne is about to lose her job, or like Piers Morgan lost his job, according to the dictates of the Constitution of the United States, and apparently all of the founding documents in Britain, according to Magna Carta. We have to agree with Meghan Markle's self-perception of victimhood, and also her protestations that she didn't marry into the royal family for any career purpose. She actually gave up her career, it turns out, to become a princess and then have a line of business at Netflix and then also run for president. I mean, it's an amazing, I would say, not even a horizontal career move. She had to take a downgrade from her job as a second-rate actress on Suits to do all of this. So really...
Second-rate? Seems a little dishonest. So I'm going D-list. I feel like everyone's now promoting her to the B-list. We had no idea who she was prior to Harry. Not a single American. She was off in Canada somewhere doing some show that nobody's heard of. But I'm glad that we've upgraded her to second-rate actress. And you are right. I'm glad that you're not questioning her narrative. As you know, even the Bible tells us women never lie, right? In that chapter of Genesis, women have never done anything wrong. And so she's obviously telling the truth about everything that's happened for her. Look, she's an opportunist. And the thing about her is she was a D-list actress, and now she is, again, being a D-list actress. No one's buying it. Actually, there was a poll that showed that her likability went down, which was pretty hard because it was floating at somewhere like 23%. And now people like her even less because she's just not good at selling victimhood. She's not a good victim. You know, there's people that you go, oh, okay, they're lying, but I I'm inclined to believe them. There's nothing about her story that makes any sense, especially when you say you had no idea who Prince Harry was, right? You had no idea who the royal family was. You thought you were going to walk in and shake the queen's hand. I didn't know that I had to curtsy or do anything polite. I thought, who is this woman? Isn't she just your grandma? So she's so ridiculous. But the serious thing about this is that she's so emblematic of leftist culture, of what Hollywood is and what America is going through. The Brits are very surprised by this suddenly castigating all of the UK as racist and fundamentally backwards, because they don't have the same history as America. And for me, it really hits home because my husband obviously is British. He grew up in London. His father is a lord. His mother is a lady. So it's so frustrating for me to see her try to export America's obsession with race to the British people who just don't care about this sort of stuff. They just don't like you. And it's this weird thing. All of a sudden, then minorities have this card in life where if we go through anything bad, if somebody doesn't like us, it can never be just because life sucks or because people don't like us. It's always because I'm Black, I'm a woman. So if you don't like me, it's your fault and you have a problem and you need to change it.
We'll get to more with Candace in just 1 second. And if you're betting on the future of Western culture, well, that's a bad bet. But here's the thing. You can have a lot of fun betting on sports. March is here, and March Madness has officially begun. It is time for you to shoot your shot, score big, with nonstop action with MyBookie. Select the winners from 63 tournament games in the MyBookie bracket contest for a chance at $10,000 in cash prizes. It is only $1 to enter. It doesn't matter whether you're filling out multiple brackets, betting the national championship winner, or simply looking for player and game props. MyBookie has you covered. Sign up today at mybookie.ag. Use promo code Shapiro to secure a deposit bonus up to $1,000. That's promo code Shapiro to claim your first deposit bonus. College ball, NBA, NHL, no matter the sport, no matter the minute, MyBookie puts the action in your hands with in-game live betting. And with choice from thousands of lines and odds, you can turn any game day into payday. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. I used MyBookie during the election. We bet on prop bets on the various debates, what people are going to wear. It's a lot of fun. Go check them out right now. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. It was funny because members of the media were sort of weirded out by the fact that so many conservatives were coming to the defense of the royal family, because typically conservatives are not a big fan of monarchy. But it does feel like, once again, every traditional institution in our culture is being hollowed out. You don't have to be a fan of monarchy to understand exactly what's going on here. This turned into a referendum on whether the entire British history was replete with racism, and this was just the latest reflection of British racism. And as you mentioned before, it does feel like we are under assault as conservatives, or as just people who want to be left alone to live our lives with our families. It feels like we're under a consistent level of assault, whether it is, stupid stories like this one, which actually have real ramifications. There were actual victims in this story, but none of them were Meghan Markle. The victims in this story are people like Sharon Osbourne, who's about to lose her job, or Piers Morgan, who lost his job at Good Morning Britain for committing the great crime of saying he didn't believe her because she's a horrible actress. But it's penetrated to the point where even the U.S. military, which I think most conservatives thought of as the bastion and repository of a certain level of traditionalism. I mean, this was a place where masculinity has to be in high supply, because if it is not, we've got a problem on our hands. And now it seems like the military itself, the military infrastructure at the higher levels, has been penetrated by woke ideology. I was saying on my show this morning that, if you asked rank and file members of the American military whether they wildly disagreed with Tucker Carlson's suggestion that perhaps pregnant women getting new uniforms was not at the top of the list of military priorities, I think rank and file military members would be like, yeah, clearly Tucker's right. But if you ask the higher ups who are beholden to the Biden administration, suddenly they have to release videos, and they are releasing videos attacking private citizens.
Right, exactly. And you're right. You're right to say that it seems like it's coming from higher up. We know, the average military man or woman does not agree with this narrative. The average military man or woman is not woke. So there's something going on that feels a lot more sinister. And I'm sure you saw over the weekend, or maybe it was the end of last week, that Bill Maher, maybe a little too late, but is now saying, oh, look, this is problematic. America is turning into a culture of wimps, and China's getting stronger. Right now in China, their military, their initiative right now is to make sure that men are more manly. Ironically, we got into so much trouble for possibly saying that men should be manly. And now China is starting an actual initiative to ensure that their men are, I should say, toxically masculine or just masculine. And yet we're doing the exact opposite. So there are bigger implications here. We do have foreign enemies. China is a problem right now. Personally, I think that they've got a lot of control over the person sitting in the Oval Office as well. We know he has a steep history with Beijing. And nobody seems to be talking about that aside from conservatives, realizing that there are deeper implications here. And all of this feels to me like an attack on Western civilization altogether. So that's sort of, I think, what the synergy is between what's going on in the UK, the Meghan Markle. This is the reason conservatives care about it. It's not because we're like, oh, well, we need a king and a queen again. Although, with the way that things are going in America, maybe we do.
She's joking. For those
really that bad?
For those in Media Matters, we don't need a monarch, and Candace is not saying that. She's joking. Just for the Media Matters people out there. So one of the things that's become perfectly obvious in virtually every aspect of the society is the death of the meritocracy, and the left is really pushing hard for this. Is that meritocracy has to go away. Instead, we're going to have woke hierarchies, or perhaps we are going to simply adjudicate our problems with reference to feelings. But the meritocracy is going away. China obviously is not getting rid of the meritocracy. China is actually ramping up its meritocracy. You have to pass all of these tests to be able to move into the middle class or get into a university. They have pretty stringent tests with regard to how their military operates. The United States is going precisely the reverse. We're getting rid of the meritocracy with regard to how to get into college. We're getting rid of the meritocracy for testing in the military, apparently. We're talking about getting rid of the gender-neutral physical fitness standards, because that might apparently cut against women, because it turns out men tend to outperform women on physical fitness. Who knew? But all of this, as you say, does feel like a real attack. So I wanted to ask you, before we run out of time here, Candace, you have a new show coming out on Friday with us here at the Daily Wire. I'm not in Nashville, so frankly, I have no idea what exactly the show is going to be. So what is the show going to look like? What can subscribers expect? We're pretty excited about it.
Oh, I think first and foremost, you can expect unregulated opinions. We want people to disagree with us. We want to have conversations. We're never going to be offering up those tired copy and pasted apologies once you say something that's true. The next day, the host comes back and says, I'm so sorry, I've realized my ways are wrong. Sharon Osbourne, you are more than welcome to join Candace. But we're creating a show that's going to feel a lot more cultural. We're going to have, obviously, a monologue that's written by me every week that will shape the show. We'll have panelists discussing the stories of the week. And again, just hitting at what feels like a massive hole where conservative voices are just not being heard. We're not allowed to be cultural. We're not allowed to be celebrated. We're not allowed to be liked. And our popularity is not allowed to be accepted by the mainstream. So we're definitely going to have interviews written into the DNA of every single episode. And we are definitely going to hit back at woke culture and talk a lot about what these cancelings really mean and who's really behind them. Because I'm starting to realize that I really don't think it's a left or right issue. It just feels like there's a small group of people that would like to see America suffer.
Well, Candace Owens, check out her brand new show, Candace. It comes out this Friday at Daily Wire, but only for members. So you have to go over to dailywire.com/subscribe and use promo code Candace. You get 25% off when you join Daily Wire. It's going to be awesome. You're going to want to be a part of it. Candace, thanks so much for joining the show, and we'll see you in a bit.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date on all of our future content.